But I think I recall Steve Jobs used to say this: stay curious, right, and never stop learning, right, which is very true. So our field, like in the cybersecurity, changes very rapidly. So things like the threats evolve, the technology evolves, regulation evolves. So what you learned yesterday might be obsolete tomorrow. So if you're someone who gets excited about, say, continuous learning, who loves figuring out how things work or and how they can be broken, cybersecurity will never bore you, right? So there's always something new to explore, for that matter. And then secondly, I would say that get involved in the community, any local community.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening for everybody who listen or watch this video podcast. My name is Ferry. We joined back in this session. This is our first season, and the whole theme for this season, as you might know from the previous episode, is Beyond Myth, where basically we want to highlight the human, the person behind the profession. So it's not just like around technical, doing hacking left and right. We really want to highlight the person behind the profession as well. And today we are so happy that Cecil from Singapore willing to join us in this episode. Later on, we will put his profile down there as well. You can see his profile in LinkedIn. He's so experienced in the field. He's been in the cybersecurity arena for many years compared to myself, for example. So I'm really happy that Cecil willing to take his time to join this session. But I think the best person to introduce himself is Cecil. So Cecil, please tell about yourself to the audience.
Thanks, Ferry, for having me on your podcast session. So my name is Cecil. As Ferry mentioned, I've been in industry probably around 20 years or so, right? Starting with electronic data processing before I went to management information systems, and then went to information technology, and now it's all cyber, right? So yeah, so that's basically that transition. Currently, I'm with an audit firm called BDO here in Singapore, and I lead the cybersecurity division. Doing most of the security testing, or rather managing most of the security testing, the cybersecurity audits, as well as cyber threat hunting and threat intelligence. Yeah.
Cool. So let's just dive to the typical question that I always start from other episodes as well. Did you plan, or did you ever even plan to join information security as a profession, or you had a different dream back then?
Honestly, not at all. I think basically my journey into cybersecurity was completely unplanned. I actually started out in hospitality systems at a company called Sulcus Hospitality Group. Yeah, doing hotel software. Then I moved to payment middleware solutions at a company called Mint Software Technologies before it actually got acquired by another company called SunGuard. Right. What happened was while working with the financial institutions across Asia Pacific, like with banks, with the Singapore Exchange, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, I kept seeing how critical it was to protect these systems. So every transaction, every kind of piece of data, the consequences of getting security wrong was actually pretty real. So that's when something clicked, right? And I think what really pulled me in was that cybersecurity isn't just about firewalls or about cryptography. It's really about protecting businesses, protecting people's livelihoods, and ultimately protecting society's trust, right? In this digital ecosystem. So as I understood, I was hooked. And then for the next 2 decades, right, I'm still fascinated by how this field actually keeps evolving. So no, I didn't grow up dreaming of becoming a cybersecurity professional. But looking back, every step of the way, from hospitality, from payments, financial services, all contributed in some way or another to that approach of security. How I approach security today, right? So sometimes the best parts are still the unplanned ones.
Okay, all right, fair enough. But by the way, just to build on your statement earlier, that security is not just about technical part, right? But then out there are plenty of people. Oh, if you are just working at GRC, then you are not working at cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is like the typical pen tester, red teamer, or even part of a purple team. But if you are a GRC, you are not cybersecurity. But then you said that no, it's not just about technical. So can you highlight why you have that
I mean,
statement earlier.
as you know, the cybersecurity spectrum is really huge. The ecosystem is really, really wide, right? Technical security testing is just one area, and GRC space is another area. Digital forensics, incident response is also another area. And I'm sure you've heard of things like lately supply chain security, things like third party risk management and things. So these are all evolving. And now we have things like AI security or security for AI for that matter, right?
Okay, so basically, because of the spectrum is very big, whichever you landed in as your first career or in the middle of your career, people can say that they are working in cybersecurity, right?
I guess so. I started off, it was called like IT security like back then before it became cyber. Yeah, a lot sexier now.
Okay. All right. So being in the industry for 20 years, talk to many clients with BDO, of course, with your hospitality as well. If there is one question and like only one, what is the myth that you always hear from your clients or from whoever interact with you that always consistent from back then until today? Like what people keep telling you, maybe I don't know, I don't need security or whatever, but somehow you always keep hearing them and then today you want to say, guys, stop. That's not true.
That's quite an easy one. I
Okay.
mean, or maybe because I also interact with a lot of or hire a lot of
Mm,
interns in the
mm,
organization, right? So it's usually the hoodie in the dark room kind of a stereotype, right? So people still think that we spend all day hacking away in dimly lit basements or some kind of typing furiously and green text scrolling down like the matrix, right? So but the reality is, of course, right? I mean, we actually, or actually spend a lot of time with managerial folks or people in operations, right? Or including people in some of the boardrooms, unfortunately, explaining risk management concepts to executives. So, and I do, rather than staring at code at this point in time, so I'm actually reviewing lots of like things like compliance framework, writing reports, monitoring my team, maybe sometimes once in a while speaking at some conferences, attending some industry events. So, but what's really probably funny is that people are still almost like disappointed when they meet cybersecurity professionals. They expect us to be more mysterious, antisocial hackers, right? And instead of me talking about things like technology risk management guidelines or some customer security program, safe customer security program, but that's totally not very glamorous, right? I mean, but unfortunately, the truth is, modern cybersecurity is incredibly collaborative, right? And focused. So we need technical jobs, but we also need communication skills, business acumen, ability to translate tech speak into language that actually makes sense for different stakeholders. So it's far more diverse than sometimes what the movies actually make me of.
yeah. So, guys, if next time you see someone in a full suit with tie, it's not just about sales and marketing people. Sometimes cybersecurity people also wear suit and tie, or
True.
even three-piece suit.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But what about AI? I mean, like I'm sure everybody talks about AI, and then everybody start talking about, hey, AI will replace programmer. Now AI will replace auditor. Now AI will replace security officer. What do you take? How's your take on it?
All right. So, I mean, that is something that I think it's something that I also keep thinking of. It actually not so much about AI. You're talking about AI like replacing jobs, right, or
Mm,
something like that.
mm,
Yeah. So I don't really think that AI is really about replacing jobs, but more so like because of the fact that there is this term on. The last time we always approach application security, right? So people are thinking that oh yeah, you need to be a coder to understand application security, but now it's about AI, and people need to think about you really have to understand AI, and of course I think AI is important, right? And I think that's where a lot sometimes, unfortunately, people might get it wrong. They see AI as maybe a replacement rather than maybe augmentation, right? So in cybersecurity, AI is becoming really incredibly powerful, right? You can analyze billions of logs in seconds, detect anomalies, right? That humans would miss or even automate repetitive tasks. That's fantastic. But here's what probably AI may not be able to do, at least for now, right? It cannot understand context the way humans do. It cannot sit with a client, right, after a breach and help them to navigate the emotional and reputational fallout. It cannot build relationships, understand organizational politics, or make maybe certain judgments, calls about maybe some risk appetite, for instance. What I'm actually saying is that AI, unfortunately, is shifting that work, not eliminating it. So mundane, repetitive analysis, yeah, maybe, right? And AI can actually handle that. But it also frees up, let's say, things like security professionals to focus on higher value activities, maybe like strategic making, relationship building, or maybe creative problem solving, right? So in my personal view, instead of fearing I think cyber professionals like us can try to probably learn how to leverage on it, understand what it can or cannot do, use it to amplify our capabilities so that the professionals who thrive will also be those who combine technical and business acumen with smart use of AI tools, right? So it's about human AI collaboration rather than total replacement.
But to build on that statement on the business acumen side, right? Again, this is come back to typical traditional saying that, hey, as long as I'm good technically, I can, break A, B, C, then I'm fine. I can go far. I know in your service line in BDO, you cover so many spectrum as well, from junior also up to the director partner level. One, of course, the question is it true? And then number two, if technical, can get you so far, is there any limitations or what kind of role that it will, if you only stick with technical without harnessing your business acumen, then career wise you will just stuck there?
Yeah, I mean that's for sure, because that's why I think previously I was in the Big Four before coming to BDO, right? I mean, throughout the entire journey of let's say an auditor or a pen tester or a consultant for that matter, um, it has to go through a series of programs. Everything that starts with soft skills, learning about even things like financial acumen, trying to read basic financial reports, trying to understand some of the business jargons and here and there, which is really important. Besides, us trying to get into the technical side of things, which is of course sometimes a given depending on whether security roles or if you're doing GRC roles or you're doing threat hunting roles or or even things like threat intelligence for that matter. Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's definitely important, and I think that grounding or those foundation skills it builds up over time to help the consultants, the auditors, the testers, right, to be a better version of themselves once they come up, meet the clients, and also actually for their own deliverables when they start to write their reports, and also to be able to get that across to the different stakeholders when they meet them, let's say at the client side, for instance.
Okay. So there is one thing that I always do if I go to Indonesia, for example, which I want to know how is it in Singapore in this particular case. So every now and then, if I visit Indonesia, I always offer myself, let's call it offer to do a free guest lecture. Whether they have a program or not, I'll just like, hey, I'm here. I have some time. I'd like to share something.
Yes.
And most of the time, what I did is to introduce cybersecurity as an industry. So not as a role, not as a profession, but as an industry. Because at least in Indonesia, if I go to several universities, if I talk, okay, what do you think or what do you know about cybersecurity? Then they always only talk about, people in the hoodie or penster, hacker,
That's right.
and I'm not technical enough. During all these lectures, I always talk about, hey, there is a security as an industry, which means that if you still love doing UI UX, for example, it's okay.
Yep.
But
Correct.
we in the cybersecurity industry also need someone who is very passionate about UI UX, because if not, then our tools will be very boring or very
Yep.
technical, not beautiful whatsoever.
Sure.
But then so far, I think I've been doing it almost 1.5, almost 2 years now. So every time I go back, I always make plan, but seems like it's very difficult to kind of like, hey guys, there's yes, there's e-commerce, there's fintech, of course, but there's also industry called cybersecurity. It's very challenging in Indonesia. How is it the, let's say, appetite for let's say a younger generation in Singapore in terms of entering security as a field?
I think it is not too far off. I mean, even if you were to compare the period of when I first started, or maybe yourself as well, right? I mean, when we first started off, the opportunities to learn is quite limited, and probably we have that in books, right? Physical books. But these days, you have so many resources all over the internet, right? And you have soft copy. And in fact, I see like a lot of students, at least in Singapore, right? When they go for classes, they don't bring books, no longer bring books. They just bring
Uh,
their laptops, right? And then
okay, yeah.
everything is there. If it's not there, they can look for it, right? So that, in that sense, I think it's a lot more accessible. Information is there. It's just a matter of how to be able to use this opportunity to better themselves, and how do you actually get that kind of I want to say, prompts, the motivation to find out more. So the curiosity is very important. So when let's say when I hire, or when we talk to interns, try to make sure that they are passionate about it. They are really passionate about it, and I think we can teach them if they do not know. But if they are not passionate, they don't have the drive, right? When they come in, if you don't have a drive, and if they are just being forced to do something they don't like, it's very difficult. But as opposed to if they really love something, we can actually try to get them onto the so-called right path, or a path that they like, right? That they can do. So I think the way that it's structured these days, I think a lot of polytechnics, universities, right, I have the same belief that they must be happy in what they're doing. Otherwise, it's really quite a challenge and an obstacle for them.
But are there many, let's say, entry level jobs in Singapore? The reason why I ask this because many people here in Europe, at least, when they talk about cybersecurity, the joke is always, yeah, okay, fine. You always said that you have a lot of gaps in cybersecurity workforce, but there is no entry level jobs.
Yes. Okay. I think you are quite right to a certain extent. We do not really see a lot of it happening yet, but I do see that the pattern of it coming from Europe side is starting to flow in here and influencing the market as well. Everybody was saying that, and this is a chicken and egg problem, right? But how do you get somebody junior if you don't train them from the start, right? And you kind of get senior people. So if senior people already retire, then how are you going to get the junior people if they don't have the opportunity to begin with, right? So that's why we're always talking about this chicken and egg thing. But it's true. I mean, for the fact that repetitive, mundane tasks can be quickly replicated, can be automated to a certain extent by AI workflows and things like that. Even low hanging fruits for security testing, for that matter. But like I said, I think we have to try to augment AI instead, right? And to work and collaborate with AI instead of having it totally replacing it. That human in the loop is still very important. And I think for the fact that um, people are hiring mostly senior, also trying. We are also seeing a bit of a pattern over here. Instead of hiring very junior people and bypassing that entire stack altogether. But this is what we are afraid of when we get that very top heavy and bottom there's not much soldiers working. And that will be an issue, I think, in times to come. If let's say, you can send a senior guy to do pretty mundane jobs, but although they're still being needed, I think that is where I think maybe the intervention of government agencies or the intervention of some large organizations to try to not to say not to say that don't hire the senior folks, but of course, we will still need junior folks around. Yeah. So I think that's important.
Yeah, sometimes the trend always flows like that from US, from Europe, and back to Asia.
Correct. Then we see hitting the shores here.
Now to come back to again us as people behind the profession, do you do some hobbies?
Sorry.
Do you have some hobbies? Because the reason why I ask this is because every time I talk to some security officer here, like, what do you do during your free time? Like, hey, there's no time. There's no free time. Okay, are you sure?
That is quite true. I mean, yes, I mean, my free time or in the weekends, I usually catch up on sleep. Yeah. Otherwise, I will try to de-stress by doing the not so very healthy thing, Netflixing.
Okay. That's still a chilling. That's good.
Watching dramas or watching some movies, right? Just to distress. But in reality, I mean, I think our profession, unfortunately, is I'm also like studying some certifications on
Okay.
the side, right? Because unfortunately, the our or at least our profession here is really a necessary. I wouldn't say evil, but a necessary thing that we have to do to keep up. So that's something that I'm also actually doing to get myself certified in some areas. Yeah, especially on the AI side. Now, yeah, auditing as well as the security manager side. I'm probably heard of the AIA, AISM, right? So those are the AIGP, right? So those are some of the things I'm actually gunning for. Hopefully this year, yeah, or the first half of this year.
Okay. So basically, your hobby is preparing for another certification.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, because I think during the last episode as well, one of our guests here, we talk about the level of burnout in cybersecurity
Mm,
members. At least he's coming from a Germany point of view, which I also see that here in Netherlands, pretty much the same. And yeah, that is something that also my concern in a way, right? Yes, we can keep up with all the technology advancement, all the certifications that are coming up, but yeah, somehow we also need to take care of ourselves in a way.
yes, yes. Totally agree with that. Yeah. So I think the last couple of months back, I recall, I think Isaka and another body, I was at IC Square, I can't remember, they were trying to organize some mental wellness for
Mhm.
security, focusing for security people.
Yeah, because I even keep telling my team members, right, guys, if you see this purple block on my calendar, I put it on purpose because then that is the time that I put myself consciously to go to gym. Because if not, then you can just put meetings on my calendar, right? So
Yeah,
I
correct.
also need to take a conscious decision. Hey,
Yeah.
this hours, I'll be blocked because I will go to gym. I mean, as an entrepreneur, being healthy is actually most expensive thing that I have to do.
But again, yeah, it's better to be. I mean, that's why they said prevention is better than cure, right? I think trying to not get into any serious illness, if you know, God willing, if you are able to, right? That will be the best, right? And yeah, I think taking care of our physically as well as mentally is important.
Yeah, true, true. By the way, speaking of Singapore specifically, maybe this is also your time to promote Singapore cybersecurity realm. Like I have a friend in Singapore who told me that if you are Singaporean or permanent resident, you do have some kind of budget for elevating yourself in terms of do you want to have an extra course? Is that also for cybersecurity? Because then it's interesting for folks who listening that maybe either they can do it also in their country or maybe, that's also one of the, let's say, magnet to come to Singapore as a cybersecurity professional.
Yes, I mean, yes, I think you heard quite right. At least for permanent residents and citizens, there's something called the Skills Future
Future.
by the government, an initiative by the government that they actually, you can actually, go for certain approved courses. So there's a list of courses from universities or from some polytechnics or from even some, how should I say, course providers, right? So not everything, of course, but most of them, right? In fact, it's not just for security. You can even have it for you want to be a chef, you want to cook something, right? You want to cook an Italian meal, for instance. They have this as well. Yeah. So security, yes, there is. So the skills future, and again, it depends on your age as well. So up to let's say 40 years old or something, you get don't quote me. I can't exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
right. Maybe about you get about maybe 70% off the entire cost total cost fees. And let's say if you're 50 and above, I think you get like 90%, something like that. Yeah. So you just need to pay like 10% of the entire cost fees. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
So and you have a budget for the at least for the residents and for the citizens, all right? Even for those who are actually working here and holding something like the S passes or the employment passes, EPs, right? I think they also do have some concessions, although it's not as much maybe, but they still do. Yeah, they encourage. Basically, the government basically encourages people to up level and upskill themselves, and there's a lot of mid-career changes as well. So we also see a lot of programs that people from air stewards or mechanics, transiting into cybersecurity. So you
Oh,
do
wow,
this.
that's even cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and mid-life career changes as well. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So it's
That's interesting. That's interesting. The reason why I also bring that up because actually over the weekend, so I talked to some of my ex colleagues where they feel like because they are so busy, doing the work, of course, then they feel like they don't really have time to, let's say, improve themselves, or sometimes they don't have time to catch up. So I told them, hey, I heard about this in Singapore, so I thought like again the same with the scheduling part, my gym. If we don't purposely plan it,
that's right.
whether ourselves or by the government or by the employer, there's always something that keeps us busy,
True.
that there's always a reason to say, "Oh, sorry, I don't have time. I'm busy. Sorry, I don't have time. I'm busy." So I think that is also something that I hope for those of you who listen to the podcast, at least from my own experience, sometimes not sometimes, I think it is better for us who are also working in cybersecurity, especially to purposely schedule something for our own, whether it's for our health, whether it's for our improvement in terms of knowledge, skills. Because if not, there's always work. There's always
Yeah, work never
something.
ends. Right? Work
Work's
never
never
ends.
end. Work never end. That's the thing. When we said that, okay, our work is finished at 5. I'm sorry, there's an incident at 7. So there's always something. Then we need to kind of like put that on purpose as well. So that's why when I heard from a friend in Singapore, actually there is a budget, there is a program. I was like, this is something that maybe other countries should also follow, because if not, then there is no
Yeah,
time for
yeah.
it.
So I remember late last year, because there was a certain budget that they gave us, that I think because over the year they will give you, like, example, like $4,000, but maybe somewhere in the middle of the year they give you another $500. But that $500, the 4,000 you can probably use it like anytime, but the $500 you have to use it like year end. So last year I remember I took a Canva Pro, which is not really cyber related, but it helps me to for my maybe I need to improve my marketing, my content creation skills a bit better. So I took the Canva Pro course, yeah, which is actually quite nice actually. Yeah, over 4 days. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. So, coming to almost the end of the chat. Let's say we switch position. You come to Indonesia, or you come to university in Singapore, and then put the position like I always do. What would you like to say to students who are maybe interested in cybersecurity or not yet interested in cybersecurity? What
Mhm.
would you say to them?
Okay, I guess first is probably like what a bit sounds a bit cliche, but I think I recall Steve Jobs used to say this: stay curious, right, and never stop learning, right, which is very true. So our field, like in the cybersecurity, changes very rapidly. So things like the threats evolve, the technology evolves, regulation evolves. So what you learned yesterday or might be obsolete tomorrow. So if you're someone who gets excited about, say, continuous learning, who loves figuring out how things work or and how they can be broken, cybersecurity will never bore you, right? So there's always something new to explore, for that matter. And then secondly, I would say that get involved in the community, any local community. And I cannot stress this enough because, for instance, in my own journey, my involvement with OWASP Singapore as a co-lead and my work with the associations of information security professionals, or AISP in short, contributing to testing guides, judging competitions like the World Skills, right? These community activities actually shaped my career more than any single job ever did, actually. And the
That's cool.
cybersecurity community in Singapore and globally is incredibly welcoming and supportive. So attend meetups, join maybe OWASP events in Amsterdam, anywhere else, participate in capture the flag competitions, volunteer, find mentors, maybe like the relationships you build and the knowledge you gain through community involvement will actually accelerate your growth in ways formal education alone cannot. So that's always something, and I wish that someone would tell me this earlier, right? It's okay not to have everything figured out because I started in the hospitality systems, right? My part wasn't very linear, and I guess yours doesn't have to be that either. So the diversity of backgrounds, right, in cybersecurity is actually a strength, I would say. So bring your unique perspective, stay humble, keep learning, contribute to the community that supports you. So the cybersecurity field is needs passionate, curious people, care about maybe making this digital world safer. Sounds like you. There's a place for you in the community.
Nice, awesome. No, I mean, I fully agree with what Cecil just mentioned. For myself as well, yes, I do traveling, I do change countries, but serving in a local community is something that I always cherish. And I remember when I first moved from Germany to Singapore. Of course, as anyone coming to a new country for the first time, like I feel lonely, like I don't know what to do. Sure, I can go to the office, but after that, nada. Because I was part of the ISACA Global, serving as a volunteer for young professional at that time, and then I attended the ISACA Singapore
Chapter.
a chapter. I think maybe Leonard Ong. I think he's also in AISP, right? So then I feel like one, I have my community in a way. The people in the chapter is really nice. Oh, Ferry, in Singapore, you can do this, you can go here, you can go there. So I feel like it's easier for me to also acclimate in the new country because of serving in the local chapter of ISACA. But at the same time, it also helped me to grow in terms of my profession, as Cecilia mentioned as well. So that's also, I think, one of my last post, I call it, before I left Singapore for Netherlands. Back then I was the secretary chapter for ISACA. So I was reporting under Leonard Ong as well. And long story short, after 10 years, no, 11 years, and I will also put the picture later on as part of this podcast, is I met the other guy in Egypt where back in 2014, his name is Osman. Hello, Osman. I gave him the appreciation placard in ISACA's event. So he was one of the speaker in the GRC event run by ISACA, and because I'm the secretary, I also give him. And suddenly going to Egypt for the first time, and then he literally remembered me. Oh, you're the guy from Singapore. I said, I'm the guy from Singapore. Okay, when did we meet? But so he still remember, and suddenly again, I feel that community is very important, like Cecilia also mentioned, whether it's for personal matters in terms of having someone to talk to, or professional as growth. Yes, I fully agree. So thank you for that, and then once again, thank you so much for your time today, and for those of you
Thank you for having me,
who
Ferry.
listen, thank you so much. And then, this is another episode of Beyond Myth, and hopefully we can continue the discussion for the next episode. I have, people lining up, willing to help me as well, which is great. And once again, thank you so much for everybody. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Once again, see you at the next episode. Bye bye.
Bye.